I wish this for everyone, that they can get to that realization, before they hit 30. Everyone's doing their best, and you just have to be okay with that and move on. I was young. I was 15 when I first found, our mushrooms first found me. And, I was in grade 10, I guess, and maybe 9. And yeah, they happened to appear. Didn't really know much about them, what they were about. And so I was a teenager, with all the angst of being a teenager, fitting in, school, what are you going to do? Thinking you have to make all the decisions for the rest of your life right now. And yeah, that was what I was like before, ordinary and average, I think. The first time I had an experience with mushrooms was, the context would have been recreation. Like, here's something you can do, like going to a party and drinking, or going to a party and dancing. And I know that I was pretty darn lucky that where I was growing up, there was a lot of outdoor culture for these sort of parties and stuff that teenagers attend. Like we'd call them bush parties. So they'd be out in the sand pits, or out in the forest at a camping site somewhere. And fortunately, the folks that participated were pretty responsible, watched out for everyone. That was my first experience, was that in nature, on a beach with campfire, and actually the opportunity to be relatively alone, and separate, like not part of a party. And it was on a brilliant night, with a thunderstorm going across in the distant background, orange lightning and thunder, and me on a beach, and just beautiful. It was beautiful. So that was my first experience with them. And so I think that the mushrooms conspired to give me beauty, nature, wonder, and awe right off the bat. Was I trying to overcome anything before that? I think the angst of being a teenager in a culture that doesn't really have rites of passage. As an adult now, when I look back and I look at many other cultures around the world, how there are these rites of passage as you transition from, a child to adolescence to teens to adulthood, and female rites of passages and male rites of passages. And maybe that's what it was. Maybe it was a kind of a yearning for that, an unknown yearning. I look back now and go, what a beautiful rite of passage that would have been, to have a sacred session with my, mentors, or my elders, not necessarily parents, but are people that I looked up to, that would have been there. So I don't know that I knew what I was. I think it was, I'm grateful that it unfolded the way it did, and it probably unfolded that way because that's the way it was meant to happen. And so there wasn't a lot of thought put into it, but there was certainly a sense of flow and trust that this was a good thing to be done. A journey that kind of coalesces all of them, and somewhat in the middle of where all my journeys have been, is a process that's been happening for me for over 30 years with friends, very close group of women friends who come together once or twice a year to have a mushroom journey. And it's thoughtful conversation, thoughtful preparation, thoughtful holding of each other where each person is at, and then a thoughtful process on preparing them together, around a fire where we would normally, melt chocolate and then carefully measure them out and put them in and process, and then a time to ingest, and always in nature, always by water, always by a forest, and then having ample time in the hours and days later to still be in that same place to integrate and talk and learn and laugh and joy. And And I think one of the most important things is that the journey is for whatever development was needed. So it didn't mean there had to be a trauma or anything bad. It could also be for creativity or visioning, or, where am I going? Where's my life going? Or how do I handle this communication issue? So it was always very diverse. The insights are really interesting that are gathered from these, and especially around parenting, around our parents, these wonderful insights where you can just forgive everything, knowing that every parent has done the best they can with the skills they had in the moment, and you can't judge them from the future looking back. It's not fair. And that was very freeing and wonderful for me. I wish this for everyone, that they can get to that realization, before they hit 30. Everyone's doing their best, and you just have to be okay with that and move on and let go of the grudges, let go of the blame or shame, or and equally for oneself. That's what really uplifted me. And that was a big corner turning for me. And I couldn't really say exactly when it happened, but it happened at the time it needed to, and young. The other thing that was really pivotal for me was later on in life, after I had already been a physician and I had already completed my career as a city firefighter and my career as a forestry firefighter, is how generally healthy I was, that I didn't carry PTSD or anxiety or grief or regret going forward. And it was kind of like an aha moment in one of my journeys, that of course, because I have been dealing with it frequently every year, every year, once or twice a year, with a very intentional journey, that I was able to clear out kind of that spiritual clutter or junk. I hope that for everyone, that it's like, okay, let's take off another layer and leave that behind, and step up to a higher level of being. So those are two major insights that have really stuck with me from compilations of journeys. Integration is incredibly important, and I think it can be very simple. And one of my mentors that I still train with says this frequently. His name is Eric, and he says he's a Peruvian ayahuasquero. And he says, once you bring it from the unconscious to the conscious, now you have to act on it. And so every lesson that comes up that now you're conscious of, you have a responsibility to now action it and know it and make it part of who you are, and not to have another medicine until you're done. And then do it with people that will hold you responsible for it in a loving kindness way. And that's why I love doing the journeys with our friends, because they hold us. We all hold each other accountable. When somebody starts slipping backwards, we're like, wait a minute, because you don't need another journey to learn that message again. You need to action it and take responsibility and be an adult on that. That's what we're here for. And then when you feel like you got it and you stepped up and you've done it, then the medicine, if necessary, will call you again. But don't go chasing, another medicine experience so that you can get the same message again. At the very beginning, before somebody's getting into doing their first psychedelic journey, I think what they should do is be mindful that it is that life is a marathon, not a sprint. There's no rush. Take your time. Do some reading, get some good books. Actually, textbooks are generally better than what you're going to read on the internet. I would say get, Jim Fadiman's Psychedelic Explorer's Guide, Mark Hayden's book on being a psychedelic sitter, The Secret Chief. Like, there's a lot of great books out there. Read a few, settle into it, take your time, find a good community or a good guide. Ask them the hard questions. There's no rush. You want to do this well. Avoid gurus and shamans, self-anointed folks that call themselves healers and shamans. You're your healer. You're your inner healer. Take your time. There's no rush. These medicines are here forever.